The storming of the Bastille is a famous event in French history. But why did it happen? The storming of the Bastille happened on July 14, 1789, and as with many historical events, there were multiple causes that led up to it. But let's just start with the most obvious. The Bastille was a prison, and people wanted to get in because they knew there were weapons stored there. Those weapons would help them to fight the king's army, which at the time was being used to put down rebellions against the king's authority throughout France. It was the result of months, even years of planning and organizing among various revolutionary groups in Paris, and prison that had become a symbol of the king's oppressive power, and it inspired other people throughout France to do the same. The French Revolution was on. They demanded that the governor of the fortress hand over the weapons stored there, so that they could use them to defend themselves against the king's army. When the governor refused, they stormed the fortress and seized the weapons. They had been watching the events in America with great interest, and they had been inspired by the call for liberty and democracy. They wanted the same kind of government for France. But why did the people want to do that? Well, again, there are multiple answers to that question. France was in a deep financial crisis. The country had been supporting the American colonies in their war for independence against the British, and that cost a lot of money. King Louis XVI had no real regard for the rights or the opinions of his subjects. He was an absolute monarch, and he ruled with an iron fist. This created a climate of fear and oppression, and people were afraid to speak out against the government or to organize any kind of rebellion. But by 1789, things had gotten so bad that people were willing to take the risk. The French government was also incredibly corrupt and inefficient. They raised taxes on the peasantry and the middle class to help make up for the deficit. But the burden fell disproportionately on the common people, while the nobility and the clergy were largely exempt from paying taxes altogether. This created a lot of resentment and anger among the general population towards the king and his ministers. Then there was the issue of the king's absolute power. The storming of the Bastille was not just a spontaneous act of violence. So on July 14, 1789, a group of about 1,000 men marched on the Bastille, a royal fortress. This was a major turning point in French history. It showed that the people were willing to fight back against the king. Okay, thanks for watching.